Actually, EAGC7's history in stop motion began before he joined YouTube. There were many movies made with stop motions. Seeing that you could animate your characters through picture was something that interested EAGC7, because that gave the chance to tell your own stories with figures. Even despite the fact he never saw the original King Kong film, he knew of the film. And when he gained the internet, he researched a lot of Kong and learned more of stop motions, and his interest grew. But he had no camera, so he could not make one. Years after the first Transformers film was released, EAGC7 became obsessed with the franchise. On YouTube, he slowly found stop motions of the Transformers. His interest in stop motion regrew because he wanted to tell his own Transformers stories. Again, no camera. But in 2009, EAGC7's cousin had a camera, and multiple stop motion tests were made. But being a beginner, the result was not pleasant. Soon, EAGC7's dream to make the series came true. A series was made, but with the small amount of figures EAGC7 had. The cast was small, no voice acting was made, all of the dialogue was with subtitles, and the story was not good. So the project was scrapped. His dream shattered. But EAGC7 thinks stuff happens for a reason. So he thinks it was a good thing that he didn't proceed. Had he continued with that series, the stop-motion universe he's developing right now would not have been made. But EAGC7 kept doing stop-motion projects. Now that his mother's cell phone had a camera, he was able to do stop-motions whenever he wanted. For the storytelling, EAGC7 was mainly inspired by Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, any studio. EAGC7 had the interest of storytelling. He always wanted to write his own stories and share them with people. EAGC7 loves storytelling. The stop motions opened the door for him to tell his own stories. Every time he watches the behind-the-scenes features of many films and sees the interviews, it gives him more motivation and inspiration for telling his stories. Mainly in the Disney behind-the-scenes features. So Disney, and all those other studios, are the main reason EAGC7 began having interest in storytelling. To EAGC7, the most important thing is the main character and their goals. He tries and wants to do everything possible to connect the characters with the audience. But at the same time, you must develop the villains, even if they are a terrible guy. EAGC7 sometimes tries to reveal the villain's softer side, if there is any, or at least slowly show phases of an eventual redemption. EAGC7 wants the audience to feel sorry for the villain, even if he is a terrible guy. You have to feel sorry for him, for what he became, and what caused him to be a villain. To EAGC7, the character's eyes are really important, because they show what the character feels or thinks. But since the toys can't move their eyes, EAGC7 tries to let the audience know what he or she feels, mainly through their actions. After failing in his last project, EAGC7 gave up in doing story-wise series. But at one point, EAGC7's brother began filming a small project. Noticing the filming, EAGC7 decided they could build up a story from this. Due to the fact this series was made for fun by his brother, they never wrote a script. So EAGC7 and his brother came to improvise every single scene, and build up a story without a script, and then improvise the dialogue while voice recording all the characters. After failing in his last project, EAGC7 gave up in doing story-wise series. But at one point, EAGC7's brother began filming a small project. Noticing the filming, EAGC7 decided they could build up a story from this. Due to the fact this series was made for fun by his brother, they never wrote a script. So EAGC7 and his brother came to improvise every single scene, and build up a story without a script, and then improvise the dialogue while voice recording all the characters. EAGC7 had no Optimus or Megatron toy. At least, bigger toys of them by this point. So, they simply made up an explanation for their absence, as seen in the stop motion that Optimus was searching for the cube, and Megatron was offline, and by some stupid reason they made that he shrank. They had fun filming the series. They had no idea if a sequel was going to be made, so they killed off Starscream. But eventually, EAGC7 decided to continue the story, and even include a teaser in one episode before Starscream died. But to continue, they had to bring back Starscream. EAGC7 eventually took over filming later and filmed the final scene with Frenzy in episode 3, and the fourth and final episode to set up the second series. He wanted to bring back as many Decepticons as possible for the sequel, and Starscream had to be one of them. so since Frenzy killed Incinerator, he came up with the idea of Frenzy using it for bringing the Khans back. By this point, AGC-7 was already casting for Transformers. So since he had a Sideways actor for Transformers already casted, he asked him to do Sideways' voice for his brief appearance in the series. And Sideways became the only character not voiced by AGC-7 here. When doing Transformers Prologue, it was originally intended that the character Knockout would have perished in the scene where he was shot down by Thundercracker, which explains why the character was absent for the rest of Prologue, and was seen almost lifeless in the Decepticons' base. But AGC-7 decided to bring back the character without any explanation for the second installment of his series. But as time passed, he was able to come up with an explanation for his absence and sudden return in the Tales of the Fallen series, explaining that the character was sent to the Constructicon base after Starscream's death, and was freed by Sideswipe later on. AGC-7 sees this as a great last-minute choice, because this allowed for the character development of Knockout to progress and create a brother-sister relationship with him and Arcee. AGC-7 would like to try and see if he can make this relationship grow further for later series. Work on Transformers began during the filming of Prologue. As the first one was unscripted, AGC-7 decided to write a script for this one. Now with an Optimus Prime and Megatron, he was able to introduce them in the story. The first Transformers movie was used as an inspiration for the stop motion, but it was not a straight adaptation of the movie. AGC-7 only used the movie as a base for what should happen in the plot, that being the Autobots' quest for the Allspark. In Prologue, a line in the beginning was added in which Incinerator stated Optimus was after the Allspark. This was added to set up for a possible sequel, if he could make one. For the stop motion, AGC-7 wanted other actors to do the voiceover for the characters, instead of himself alone. So he started a casting call for this one. YouTubers 9012 Ironhide, Abrax Gray, Night/12345, Stacy Alex 532 were cast as the main robots. Optimus Prime was originally set to be voiced by user CFighter95, but another user named TF2 Optimus wanted the role very badly, so he was given the role of Optimus Prime. During the casting, he was searching for a female user to be the voice of Arcee. He found one, but she was unable to do the work, which led to Arcee getting cut and being replaced by Ironhide. Besides the characters of Lennox, Graham, who at the time was to be a new character in ROTF, and Epps, AGC-7 decided to add brand new human soldiers into the story. For the characters, he tried to find names for them. So he started to randomly think of names, and he name-slapped the soldiers after characters that came to his mind. Like the pilot from the F-22 Raptor Starscream scan was named after the late actor Bob Peck. Robert Turner's last name came from the last name of the protagonist from The Fairly OddParents, Tammy Turner. Duke Burns was named after Duke from G.I. Joe. Steve Grant's last name came from the Dr. Grant of the Jurassic Park franchise, and Peter Burns' first name and Will Parker's last name came from Peter Parker. Optimus Prime is obviously in the AGC-7 stop-motion universe, but at first, his inclusion was doubted. This was due to the fact that AGC-7 had no Optimus toy, or at least a bigger toy for him. So AGC-7 came up with an explanation on the prologue stating he was searching for the cube. Also, AGC-7 made that up in case sequels were made, and he got an Optimus figure, which eventually happened. Thus, work on a sequel for introducing both faction leaders was made. In the movies, Optimus possessed an aggressive personality, which caused some very negative receptions from the fans. AGC-7, however, liked it and kept it as part of Optimus's personality, but at the same time, he was noble. AGC-7 developed plans to explore more of Optimus's past and what led to his aggressive side sometime in the future. Megatron is the secondary arch-villain of the entire franchise. One may think AGC-7 would make him the key villain of his continuity, but no, Megatron is the secondary villain. The character was absent from Prologue since AGC-7 did not own a Megatron toy back then. Thus, he had to come up with an explanation for his absence. He came up with the idea that Bumblebee defeated him and by some stupid reason shrank Megatron, but his cousin gave AGC-7 his Movie 1 Voyager Megatron. Thus, now owning a Megatron, AGC-7 quickly began work on Transformers, with every intention of bringing Megatron into play, and at the same time, kill him. Megatron's real death was written due to the fact AGC-7 was going to make his own version of revenge, and so he wanted to kill Megatron and then bring him back for the second time for revenge. In the early draft of the Revenge movie, we see that the Fallen promised Megatron the powers of a Prime, but Optimus revealed that it was a lie, leading Megatron to lead the Fallen on his own. AGC-7 decided to bring back that removed plot point for his version of Revenge. He decided to keep Megatron in the dark of the Fallen's real plans for him, and not let him know the full truth of the Fallen's planned betrayal. In the Transformers stop motion, we see that Sideswipe makes it out alive and well from the final battle, while Jazz does not. But from the beginning, it was the other way around. In the first script, it was Sideswipe who perished, while Jazz survived. Sideswipe was originally meant to lose his life at the hands of Dirt Boss. But after AGC-7 got the first movie Legends Jazz toy, he did a stop-motion recreation of movie Jazz's death. AGC-7 decided to use this for his Transformers series, but he only wanted 3 Autobots to die by this point. Thus, he decided to spare Sideswipe's life and kill Jazz. From the very beginning, AGC-7 wanted to include the female Autobot RC for Transformers. The script used for the final product had RC in it. Even the teaser trailer for Transformers shown in Prologue had RC in it. However, AGC-7 was unable to find an actress for RC. He knew he would not have the character in it if he could not find anyone to voice her. He gave up and scrapped the character, but right away, AGC-7 decided he would not toss away the script he made and came up with a whole new plot. He would rewrite RC's dialogue and scenes for another character. So just like it happened in the 2007 film, AGC-7 replaced her with Ironhide. In the early script, RC would have survived and reformatted into her Revenge of the Fallen body later on, but without her, AGC-7 killed off Ironhide, who later returned in Revenge. AGC-7 thinks this was a wise choice, because had RC been in Transformers, his new incarnation of RC introduced in Tales of the Fallen would have never existed, and neither would have the background story he made for the new incarnation. Plus, RC's inclusion may have not allowed AGC-7 to add Moonracer as a character for his series. So in AGC-7's mind, removing RC from Transformers was a wise choice.